The rain had just stopped, and the streets were shiny from the sunlight breaking through the clouds. You walked quickly down the busy road holding the letter tightly in your hands. Your heart was beating fast, but it wasn't fear, it was pure excitement. Today was a big day. The letter you held was from John Industries, the company you had dreamed of working for all your life. As you got closer to the tall, shiny building, you stopped and looked at it. The windows sparkled in the sunlight, and the building seemed to be welcoming you. You smiled to yourself. I made it. This is my dream, and it's finally happening. Inside, the lobby was even better than you imagined. The floor was shiny like a mirror, and everything looked so fancy. People were walking around looking busy and smart. The lady at the front desk smiled at you. Good morning. How can I help you? You smiled back. Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm starting today as the new marketing strategist. You tried to sound calm, but your excitement showed in your voice. Welcome to John Industries, Miss Ryan. The lady said warmly. She pointed towards the elevators. Go to the 22nd floor. Someone will meet you there. As the elevator moved up, you took a deep breath. You couldn't believe you were here. This was everything you had worked so hard for. When the elevator doors opened, a kind woman greeted you. Hello, Miss Ryan. I'm Miss Joy, the HR manager. We are so happy to have you here. Let me show you around. She walked you through the huge office. The big windows showed a view of the whole city, and the desks were neatly arranged. People were typing, talking, and working together. It felt alive, like a place where big things happened. You'll be working with our main marketing team. We have heard a lot about your skills and we're excited to see what you can do. You nodded quickly. Thank you so much. I've followed John Industries for years. It's such an honor to be here. She smiled. We are expecting great things from you. Finally, she showed you your desk. It was near a big window where you could see the blue sky and the tall buildings outside. You sat down feeling like the happiest person in the world. But as you turned on your computer, you noticed something strange. People were whispering and looking nervous. They hurried back to their seats. What's going on? You wondered, looking around. That's him, the CEO. She whispered from nearby. You looked up and saw a tall man walking down the hallway. He was surrounded by important looking people, and he walked with so much confidence. His suit was perfect and he looked serious, like someone who always got what he wanted. Your heart stopped for a second. You recognized him. It was John Jungkook. The man you once knew, the man who had been so important to you, but you left without saying goodbye. Now he was your boss. He walked past your desk, his sharp eyes glancing at you for just a moment, but he didn't stop. He didn't say anything. It was like he didn't know who you were. You stared at your desk, your hands started shaking a little. Just a few minutes ago, you were so happy, now you feel uncomfortable. Are you okay? She asked when she noticed your condition. You quickly snapped back, wiping your eyes and forced a smile. Yes, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. She nodded and you again went back to work, but your mind was now filled with thoughts. Jungkook walked into his big office where the walls were made of glass, showing the whole city outside. He didn't look at the view though. He was focused like always. He went to his desk, took off his jacket, and hung it on the chair. Then he sat down, leaning back a little, and loosened his tie. His secretary Mina was standing by the door holding a tablet. Tell me what's going on, he said in a calm but serious voice. Mina stood up straight, scrolling on her tablet. We have some updates for today, sir. The marketing team will give their reports by the end of the week. The finance team needs your approval for the new budget, and there's a meeting with the board at 2 am. Jungkook nodded. What about the new project? I want the drafts on my desk by tomorrow morning. Yes, sir, I'll make sure it's done. Mina answered quickly. Jungkook leaned forward a bit. What about the new hires? Are they settling in? Is there anything I need to know? Mina smiled a little as she checked her notes. Actually, we hired a new marketing strategist today. Her name is Wyan Kim. She comes highly recommended. When Mina said that name, Jungkook stopped tapping his fingers on the desk. His face didn't change, but his eyes flickered with something, a memory maybe. Wyan Kim, he said, his voice was softer than before. Yes, she's already here and settling at her desk. From her profile, she looks like a great addition to the team. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, staring out the window for a second. His jaw tightened a little like he was remembering something. Keep an eye on her progress. Let me know if she struggles with anything. Meena nodded and made a note. Of course, sir. Is there anything else you would like me to do? Jungkook waved his hand. That's all for now. I'll call if I need you. Meena gave a small bow and left the office. You sat at your desk staring at the computer screen, but the words blurred together. No matter how hard you tried to focus, your mind kept going back to Jungkook. Earlier, he had walked right past you, his expression cold and distant, like you were no one to him. You sighed and rubbed your temples, forcing yourself to type something, anything, but it was no use. The way he looked at you, or rather didn't look at you, kept playing in your head. By the afternoon, you decided to step away from your desk. The break room was quiet, and you thought a cup of coffee might help calm your nerves. As you waited for the machine to finish, the faint sound of footsteps caught your attention. Turning slightly, you saw him, Jungkook. He stood near the elevator, his hands in his pockets. For a moment, you froze, unsure of what to do, but then the elevator doors opened, and you knew you couldn't let the moment pass. You walked over quickly and stepped in right after him. He glanced at you for a brief second before facing forward, his expression as cold as ever. The quiet hum of the elevator filled the space, but the tension felt louder. Your fingers tightened around the cup in your hand as you tried to find the courage to speak. Finally, you decided to break the silence. I didn't know you were the CEO here. Your voice soft but steady. Jungkook turned his head slightly, his sharp features catching the light. His eyes, once warm and familiar, were cold and distant now. Okay, and he replied. His tone was clipped and impersonal. His words hit you harder than you expected, and your chest tightened painfully. The indifference in his voice felt like a sharp edge cutting through the memories you once shared. Jungkook, why are you acting like we are strangers? Like you don't know me? You managed to keep your voice steady, but it trembled. He kept his gaze on you for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke. His voice was low and calm. Because we are strangers. His words made your breath caught. You searched his face, desperate for any hint of recognition, but there was nothing. No warmth, no acknowledgement, just a wall. You are kidding, right? How can you say that after everything? How can you pretend like it never happened? He turned away, his jaw tightened. I'm not pretending. There's nothing to remember. His words felt like a slap, leaving you frozen in place. The elevator doors opened and Jungkook stepped out without another glance. His posture was rigid. You remained behind, your chest heavy with unanswered questions. How could he forget you completely? Or worse, was he choosing to? Jungkook walked into his office and closed the door behind him. He pulled off his tie and sat at his desk, staring out at the tall buildings outside. His face looked calm, but inside his mind was a storm. Seeing you in the elevator had brought back memories he didn't want to think about. He leaned back in his chair and his thoughts drifted to the past. There was a time when everything had been different. Back then he had been happy. You had been the reason for his smiles, his laughter, and his hope. He remembered the times you spent together, how your voice and your presence had made everything in his life feel better. You had been special to him more than anyone else, but then one day you disappeared. Junko clenched his fist as the pain of the time came rushing back. He had waited for you, called you, and searched for answers, but you didn't come back, you didn't explain, you just left. Later, he overheard people saying that you had chosen to leave because you wanted a different future, one without him in it. Those words had crushed him. They made him feel like he wasn't good enough, like you had used him and then walked away. Now he finally came back. From that day, Jungkook had changed. He stopped trusting people easily. He locked his feelings away, building a wall around his heart to protect himself from getting hurt again. Now, years later, you were here and you were looking at him like none of it had ever happened. Jungkook took a deep breath, running a hand through his hair. Strangers, that's all are we now. He whispered to himself. He sat up straight and turned to his work, pushing the memories aside. He told himself that he couldn't let his feelings come back, not now, not ever. Jungkook had been avoiding you ever since you joined the company. Every time you saw him, he either walked away or spoke in short, cold sentences. It made your heart ache, but you reminded yourself of your goal. You were here to work, not to think about the past, but life had its own plans. It started small, accidentally running into each other in the hallways, hearing his sharp voice during meetings, and him giving comments on your work. These little moments felt uncomfortable, slowly started to break the wall he had built around himself. Your team was set to present an important marketing idea to Jungkook. Since you were the team leader, it was your job to explain the plan. You stood at the front of the conference room, holding your notes tightly. Jungkook was sitting at the far end of the long table, watching you with his serious eyes. This idea is bold and fresh. It shows the company's values and makes us stand out from our competitors. You were trying your best to sound confident and not let his eyes make you weak. Jungkook leaned back in his chair. His gaze was sharp. Bold, you say? He asked in calm but strong voice. You nodded quickly. Yes, sir, it matches the company's vision perfectly. There was a long silence. Everyone in the room seemed to be holding their breath, waiting for his response. Finally, he gave a small nod. All right, let's move forward with it. Your team let out quiet sighs of relief and some whispered congratulations to you, but your eyes were on Jungkook. For just a moment, you thought you saw something different in his face, like the ice was melting, even just a little. One evening, you were still sitting at your desk working on your campaign. The office was quiet, and the soft light from your computer was the only thing keeping the room from being completely dark. Suddenly, you heard footsteps. Startled, you looked up to see Jungkook walking towards you. He had his suit jacket draped over his shoulder, and his usual serious expression was softer than normal. You are still here? He asked. His voice was calm. You tried to smile. I could ask you the same thing. He stopped near your desk and hesitated for a moment before saying, I wanted to check how the campaign is going. It's going well, you said, pointing at your computer screen. Do you want to see the updates? Nodded and pulled out the chair next to you. Sitting so close to him felt strange, but it didn't make you uncomfortable. As you explained the changes on the campaign, you noticed he was really listening. Sometimes, instead of looking at the screen, his eyes shifted to you. You have always been good at this, he said out of nowhere. You stopped talking and stared at him surprised. Good at marketing? You asked. No, good at making things feel personal. His words hung in the air. For a moment, it felt like you were sitting beside the Jungkook you used to know, the one who was kind and warm, but then, just as quickly as the moment came, it was gone. I should go now. He got up and was about to leave, but today you wanted to ask him the reason why he's so cold and distant towards you. As he turned to leave, you couldn't hold it in anymore. This desperation overtook you and you reached out, grabbing his sleeve. Jungkook, please, you said as your voice trembled. He stopped, glancing back at you, his expression cold and distant. Slowly he turned fully, his dark eyes fixed on yours. What do you want? He asked flatly. Why are you pretending like this? Why are you acting like we are strangers? Please, Jungkook, just tell me what happened. Why are you doing this? His jaw tightened and a flash of hurt crossed his face before he masked it again. He repeated your words bitterly. What happened? You tell me. You are the one who disappeared without a word. You are the one who made it clear I didn't matter anymore. Your heart dropped. You shook your head. That's not true. You said. Your grip on his sleeve tightened. Isn't it? His voice rose, anger laced his words. Do you know what it felt like to wait for you, to call, text, and hear nothing back, and then to hear from others that you were moving on, that you had no place for me in your future? Do you have any idea what that did to me? Your heart shattered at his words. Tears blurred your vision, but you refused to look away. I didn't move on. I didn't leave because I wanted to. Then why? Why didn't you tell me what was going on? Why didn't you tell me anything? He demanded, his voice filled with frustration. You took a shaky breath, the memories you had tried so hard to bury rushing back, because they didn't give me a choice. You said quietly, your voice trembled. Jungkook's brows furrowed, his anger was still there. Who? My family. You said, the words spilled out like a flood you could no longer contain. They decided my future for me. My father arranged for me to marry someone else, someone who could secure our family's position, and when I tried to refuse, they made sure I couldn't reach out to anyone. What do you mean? He asked, his voice turned softer now, though his eyes still held doubt. Tears started streaming down your cheeks. They took my phone, they cut me off from everything. They made sure I couldn't contact anyone, not you, not my friends. I wasn't even allowed to leave the house without someone watching me. I was trapped, Jungkook. His expression shifted, the coldness in his gaze melted into something else, something vulnerable. I tried to fight, but I don't know how. And by the time I finally got out of it, so much time had passed. I thought you hated me. I thought it was too late to make things right. Jungkook looked away, running a hand through his hair. Do you know what it felt like to hear from others that you wanted a future without me? That you were better off without me? I thought I was just something you outgrew. It was a lie. You said, stepping closer to him. I never said that. I never stopped loving you. Jungkook, not for a second. You were the only thing that kept me going through all of it. He let out a shaky breath, his shoulders slumped as if the weight of your words were too much to bear. You should have told me. We could have faced it together. His voice was soft but filled with pain. He was blaming you that you ghosted him without knowing what you have been through. I know, and I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you. I didn't want my family to hurt you or destroy your life. But I see now that all I did was hurt you even more. Jungkook's gaze met yours, his dark eyes swimming with emotions he couldn't hide anymore. Pain, anger, love, and longing. For a moment, the world around you seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next. He took a step closer, his voice low but trembled with emotion. Do you even realize what you mean to me? I didn't just wait for you, I built my life around you. Every day without you, I felt like I was losing a piece of myself. Your tears fell faster now, and you reached out, gently cupping his face. I know, Jungkook, I know I broke your heart, and I've hated myself for it every single day, but I swear I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to fight for us back then. His hand came up to cover yours, warm and steady despite the storm in his eyes. You should have told me. I would have fought for you. I would have turned the world upside down to get to you. I was scared of what my family would do to you, scared of dragging you into my mess, but I see now that keeping you away was the worst thing I could have done. Jungkook closed his eyes, his jaw tightened as he fought back his own tears, then with a shaky exhale he opened them again, his gaze softer now. We have both been through hell, but if you're here now, if you're willing to stand with me, then I'm not letting you go again, not this time. Your breath hitched at his words, the weight of his love and forgiveness wrapped around you like a warm embrace. I promise, Jungkook, I'm not going anywhere ever again. I'll fight for us, no matter what. He didn't hesitate any longer. Jungkook pulled you into his arms, holding you tightly as if he was afraid you might disappear again. You buried your face in his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat and the warmth of his embrace. It was a feeling you thought you would never have again, and it filled every broken part of you with hope. I missed you so much, I thought I had lost you forever. He pressed a soft kiss on your forehead. I missed you too, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, Jungkook. You whispered, looking up at him. His lips quirked into a small, bittersweet smile before he leaned down, resting his forehead against yours. You're mine, Ryan. You have always been mine, and I'm not never letting you go. In that moment, the burden of the past began to fade away. It wouldn't be easy, and the hurt from what happened would take time to heal. But as Jungkook's lips touched yours in a kiss full of love, promise, and forgiveness, you knew one thing for sure. This was your second chance, and together you would create a new story, one filled with hope, love, and the happiness you both truly deserved.